Current Fáil Road to Aristot Cadine Shannon August Cagor just freshen, and I wish you all the very best in your new role, Minister Coffey. I'm genuinely delighted for you, and I hope I'm certain you'll acquit yourself extremely well. I thank you for being here this evening, because particularly the department that you're now in as Minister for State, you're in the Department of the Environment. The adjournment motion which I put down specifically relates to your department, and when you look at your own responsibilities in housing planning and coordination. And I would urge you, I know you've got to read yourself into your brief, but to pay specific attention to the whole issue of pyrite. As many of my colleagues will know, many of us across the House, both in this House, first piece of legislation produced on pyrite was in the Shannon bill that myself I produced. There is a massive issue. I welcomed broadly the establishment of the Pyrite and Remediation Board. My question to you this evening is really the need for the Pyrite Board to, and for the Minister to report on the progress with the Pyrite Remediation Scheme, and with particular emphasis on homeowners who have applied for remediation and have not yet been approved. And it seems to be in many instances that is the case because the builder who built their homes is still trading, and or that builder or the homeowner is involved in litigation. Now, there are people here, unfortunately, couldn't be here this evening because we weren't sure with the scheduling of time, because there was additional business from Lusk Village Action Group and Lusk Pyrite Action Group, who were watching here online this evening. They've done a ferocious amount of work and have actually been involved since the very start. The North Dublin area is particularly badly hit with the scourge of pyrite. Now, what I have a major concern with, and I'll ask you please to do check this out, is that homeowners who find themselves in this situation, such as those in Lusk Village, another estate I know that's in Donabate in North County Dublin as well, where the Pyrite Remediation Board are not stalling would be the wrong word, but are taking a longer time to confirm that houses will be remediated because the builder is trading, or because that builder may be taking legal action against a quarry or another third party. Now, when I debated at length the establishment of this with Minister Hogan and met the Pyrite Board in the Customs House at their briefings, I was assured, as were colleagues of mine, Claire Daly in the Dáil, that any of these, that the state reserves the right to go after builders or those they feel are at fault here to get some of those costs back, if not all of them. And I agree with that. But that does not have to be done before these applications are approved. And what I'm really concerned about is that in the situation with Lusk Village, that the Pyrite Remediation Board are saying, and I quote, you know, they're considering compliance with eligibility requirements, including the availability of other practicable options. And that's fine. I have no issue with that, but I do not want hundreds of homeowners whose houses are comply with the standards that are set down, not perfect standards, I might add, or in the Pyrite Remediation Board, but it's a start. I know this is the beginning of the process. They should not be left to the end to see how these legal processes work out, these legal cases work out. And I specifically put those points to Minister Hogan at the time. I was assured that that would not be the case, and I fully support the state's right to go after those who were negligent or who believe or who we believe are at fault, to recoup those funds. I'll conclude in a second. I'll ask you here. But just to say, I don't want homeowners like those in Lusk Village being left dealing with the builder of their estate, who the residents would tell you very clearly has not been cooperative in any way, shape or form with this process. And it really does further concern me, by the way, because one of the reasons we're in this situation is because home bond insurers refuse to pay out and refuse to pay money to remediate any of these homes. Yet, you know, we learned very recently that the Pyrite Board itself has entered into a partnership and recently concluded a contract with Home Bond for project management services to remediate affected homes. Now that's very difficult for us to take, and most importantly, very difficult for the homeowners to take. So finally, what I'm asking for today is confirmation from the Department of the Environment that those homeowners who find themselves in a situation where the state will be going to recoup costs in the future get confirmation from the Pyrite Remediation Board that their infill will be removed and their houses will be remediated, whether or not the builder is currently still trading, and whether or not there are legal actions pending.
Thanks, Senator O'Brien. Minister. Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Again, I want to thank Senator O'Brien for his kind comments at the outset. Thank you very much. I come back to the Seanad. I spent over 4 years here and 4 very good years indeed with many colleagues. I want to thank Senator O'Brien for raising this matter, which I am taking on behalf of Minister Alan Kelly, and for providing me with an opportunity to report on the progress that has been made by the Pyrite Resolution Board to date in addressing this very difficult problem. The Pyrite Resolution Board, with the support of the Housing Agency, is tasked with implementing the Pyrite Remediation Scheme in accordance with the provisions of the Pyrite Resolution Act 2013. The scheme was published in February of this year, and the Board commenced accepting applications from affected homeowners on the 26th of February last. The scheme is reflective of the conclusions and recommendations in the report of the Independent Pyrite Panel and is a scheme of last resort. It only applies to dwellings affected by significant damage attributable to pyritic heave and where the applicant has no practical option other than under the scheme to secure the remediation of the dwelling. To date, the Board has received approximately 520 completed applications, which include multiple applications from 26 developments and 47 single-site applications in respect of one-off bills and single applications from larger developments. The process of approval involves a number of stages, including validation by the Board of applications against the relevant eligibility criteria and an assessment, verification and recommendation process undertaken by the Housing Agency. Approximately 206 applications have been validated by the Board and forwarded to the Housing Agency for the assessment, verification and recommendation process, and of those, 52 have now been approved for inclusion in the scheme, and the applicants notified accordingly. The assessment and verification process involves confirmation that the damage recorded in the building condition assessment in respect of a dwelling is attributable to pyritic heave, and that at this stage may involve testing of the hard core material. While no contracts have been awarded as yet, I understand that the Housing Agency is close to awarding the first remediation works contract, and it is intended that this phase of the process, that is to say the awarding of contracts and the commencement of remediation works, will gather momentum over the coming months. In line with the provisions of the Pyrite Resolution Act, the Board must satisfy itself that applicants under the scheme have taken all reasonable and appropriate steps to seek to have those parties who have a responsibility to remediate their dwellings to pay the cost of remediation. In this context, the Board is currently in discussions with a number of builders and/or their representatives with a view to securing funds from those sources for remediation works. However, it is not the Board's policy to exclude applicants from the scheme solely because the builder is still trading or to unduly delay the remediation works in such cases. Each application will be considered by the Board on its own merits and having regard to the eligibility criteria of the scheme. I am satisfied that the Board will adopt a balanced approach in dealing with applicants in these circumstances, but it must be also recognised that it is incumbent on the Board to explore all possible avenues to ensure that any funding that can be acquired for remediation purposes is secured for that purpose. I fully support the approach being pursued by the Board and look forward to continuing progress in providing solutions for affected homeowners. Thank you, Cathaoirleach.
Minister.
Just very briefly. Look, thanks, Minister, for the response. I'm meeting the Pyrite Remediation Board tomorrow here in Leinster House with residents from Lusk Village and with my colleague Deputy Claire Daly. And I would just ask you finally, I understand the response is very similar to what we're getting from the PRB, but following the meeting tomorrow, that I would ask, I think it would be useful for yourself and Minister Kelly to, maybe that you would give a commitment over the coming months or in September when the Dáil and Seanad are back, that you would meet with affected residents to hear their stories themselves. This is a new process. I always knew there were going to be bumps in the road, but it's our job to iron out those bumps. So maybe, Minister Coffey, you could give a commitment this evening that post the meeting with the Pyrite Board tomorrow, that at some stage over the next 6 to 8 weeks, that you or your colleague, Minister Kelly, would meet with myself and colleagues and members of this, because everyone wants this situation resolved. It's the right thing to do, the last thing we want, and I am happy that you've said here that it's not the Board's policy to exclude applicants because the builder is still there. That's fine, and I understand that. But that's not what we're really hearing at the moment. So we need to get that clarified.
Thanks, Senator. Final word, Minister Coffey.
Yes, indeed. If I could just say to the Senator, and I do understand these are very genuine concerns, and they do concern a lot of public representatives from all political persuasion and none. And, you know, Senator, you rightly raised them here on the floor of the Seanad. Look, I wish you well with your meeting tomorrow with the Pyrite Board. And look, I certainly have no problem. I think it's something that can be arranged in the future with possibly a delegation if, you know, progress is not being made. I'm certainly open to that.
Can't ask for anyone. Thank you.